Yeah, we need her.
Yeah. We do. Ready? Okay.
Regular meeting of Washington, Missouri City Council, Monday, June 17th, 2024, 7 p.m. Bear,
Here.
Briggs,
Here.
Coulter,
Here.
Hydrich, Holtmeyer,
Here.
Patke,
Here.
Reed,
Here.
Wessels.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will all the council members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the council meeting dated June 3rd, 2024? Bear,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Coulter,
Yes.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Patke,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Wessels.
Aye.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Patke, second by Holtmeyer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved.
Approval and adjustment of agenda, including consent agenda. You have the final payment requests for Public Works front office renovation and liquor license renewals.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Patke, second by Coulter to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the adjustment agenda is consent approved.
Priority items, mayor's presentations, appointments, and reappointments. Board of Public Works reappointment.
Dear council members, I herewith submit for your approval the following for reappointment to the Board of Public Works. Mike Ratatek, term ending of June 2028.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Bear, second by Patke to approve. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that's approved. And also, I hereby submit for your approval the following for reappointment to the Library Board of Trustees. Doug Holtmeyer, term ending June of 2027.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Briggs, second by Coulter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Public hearings, special use permit roadside stand, 813 Jefferson Street.
Good evening, council. We have a special use permit. Hopefully pop up here in a second. Okay, so this is Just Hank's Coffee Truck, and he's at the VFW parking lot. The X there is where his location is, which is about 150 feet from the entrance to that parking lot. So that allows for about a 7-car stack. The zoning is C2, and he has been operating there for a little bit without a special use permit, just because he was under the impression that his special use permit at the,
Iron Spike.
thank you, I did that last time, Iron Spike Train Museum followed him, but it was actually for Iron Spike property and does not follow him. So once we kind of talked about it, he applied for this special use permit and got permission from property owners to apply for the special use permit. So here we are today, asking for your approval.
Did we have, were there any issues over at the Iron Spike?
No, it just wasn't enough traffic,
Oh, okay.
so,
Location.
But I mean, there were no problems as such.
no.
The applicant is here if you have any questions.
As we read through the notes here, it said it is still portable, so it's
Correct.
there, I guess, as a, how do you want to say, semi-permanent, I guess
Yeah.
you could say?
So like most food trucks, they are mobile. He is technically here, and he can speak more to that, Monday through the weekend, but then I think there's some other places that he goes to serve coffee, but then he'll come back here. So it's his full-time his place, yeah.
Yeah, I think one day they go down to the hospital too, I believe, or did. I don't know if they still do or not. I got no problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Folks, this is a public hearing, so if anyone in the audience would like to come up and comment on this, please feel free. And the applicant is here if you guys have questions. Okay. I'll accept a motion to accept it into the minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Briggs, second by Bear. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance granting a special use permit for a roadside stand at 813 Jefferson Street in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Okay, so we have,
I'm sorry.
sorry,
Patke.
ordinance.
Beat me to it.
Introduced by Patke.
I know.
So we're coming back to this special use permit. This has already been approved
Nope.
back in October.
We're still on the.
Don't we vote?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're on the ordinance.
Sorry.
Oh, the ordinance, I'm
Let
sorry.
them, we got to get through that first.
We gotta get one at a time.
Any discussion?
Nope.
Okay, Sherry, go ahead.
An
Second
ordinance
reading.
granting a special use permit for a roadside stand at 813 Jefferson Street in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Patke?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Coulter?
Yes.
By your vote, ordinance 3B passes. C, please.
Special use permit, roadside stand, 601 West Fifth Street.
Okay. So again, and another special use permit that you've seen back in October, you approved it with conditions that they would shut down the snack shack at midnight. The applicant wasn't here at the time, so didn't get to argue his side of it. So he reapplied for another special use permit to ask for an extension of that time. So he would like to close down at 1:15 as opposed to at midnight.
Okay, Sarah, I see from a couple of your emails, you sent this over to the traffic committee.
Correct,
Commission.
we had traffic committee to discuss it.
Right, Sergeant Grissom and Chief, I believe, were there. And they came back with the recommendation of 1 o'clock. Asking to go, I was wondering why you decided no on that and go with 1.
Well, we didn't decide no, we took it to P and Z and they said it was okay to them, so they just left it at the 1:15 per his special use permit
Planning and Zoning
application.
Commission recommended 1:15.
Yeah, so they
But it
didn't,
was midnight, wasn't it?
It was midnight was what you granted with the council
Right.
back in October.
right. So that P and Z did not recommend changing it to 1 o'clock. Traffic committee suggested 1 o'clock, so it's.
And Chief, could you explain why that might be, what the difference?
Sure. During our discussion, obviously, with the bar closing at 1:30, and then crowds typically will gather there, we just felt that if that time frame was either, well, originally we wanted to go till 2 a.m. We felt that if it was either during or after bar closing time, it would just increase the crowds, and we were concerned it would. We've had issues in the past where the crowds end up in the street and we have to clear the streets, things of that nature. We just didn't want to get to that point. So if there's a stagger, I guess, lack of a better term, where they can stagger the times a little better, give that one, the snack shack time to close and then the bar closed a little bit after that, it would help with that, in my opinion.
So we're looking at 1:15 now.
Our recommendation was 1 at the latest. I'm not sure where the 1:15 came from.
Planning and Zoning.
Well,
They.
that was
came
on the
from
application.
owner, yeah.
The discussion that was done at Planning and Zoning was he would take the last order at 1 o'clock, and then the food would be out by 1:15, and the doors would be closed at 1:15 on the snack shack, is what he told us. That's why the Planning and Zoning went with the 1:15.
Okay.
Was planning and zoning aware of police concerns?
Yes,
Okay.
that was what the recommendation was.
He's here.
Yeah, we can have him come up.
Yes, the applicant is here, you guys. Jesse?
Yes, we are seeking to be open to 1:15 for the snack shack.
Jesse, it's, with this fan, it's tough for us to hear, so if, yeah, please introduce yourself.
I apologize. Jesse Turner with the Snack Shack and the Sandbar. We are currently operating, and we close at midnight, and we are requesting to be open to 1:15.
I have no problem with 1 o'clock if it's the way Chief seems to get. If we can get the crowd, keep them on the sidewalk, that'd be great. If becomes a problem, it is a special use permit, we can take that away at any time, so.
Correct, and so it would be essentially a test trial. If what the chief says and it does bring a lingering, then you could revoke it. But I don't see a lingering happening. People are going to get food regardless, whether they get it from a food truck or drive to Washington or Union Jack in the Box. They're going to get food regardless, but it's not something they're going to stay for. People already hang out afterwards, not so much in the streets, but yeah, there is 5 to 10 people that'll hang out outside of each bar in town.
Jesse, are you there every night? I mean, whenever you got a busy night, like on the weekend, when it's closing time, are you in the food truck? I've never been there.
I'm there every Friday and Saturday night, yes.
Okay.
So I see exactly what happens from there.
Okay.
Other questions? Discussion?
I'd like to go with the way the traffic committee, and to Chief's point, it was 1 o'clock, but if planning and zoning gives us the okay to 1:15, I guess maybe that doesn't matter by that much.
Nope.
More so, I'd just love to see a feedback in the near future, relative to what happens and what goes on and how it works out, 1 o'clock, 1:15, whatever we decide. And, not the strong arm and revoke it, but, that you work with us on the timing issue so it is not a problem would be the main thing for me. So 15 minutes doesn't seem like a lot, but like to Mark's point, we have a traffic committee for a reason that suggested 1 o'clock, so I'm not quite sure how the planning and zoning went to 1:15. That's a little bit splitting hairs.
I think Mr. Briggs explained that, and it's, Jesse, you could answer that as well. If the last order's at 1, I get it. We want to make sure we can shut off at a certain time to say, no more orders, guys. And you still got time to get the stuff out, and then you shut the kitchen down.
Right.
Makes sense to me.
Okay. Further discussion?
We're good.
Questions? Okay. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
And folks, this is a public hearing, so if anyone else would like to comment, please come forward. No further. Okay, guys, I'll take a motion to accept it into the minutes, please.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Briggs, second by Patke. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance amending a special use permit for a roadside stand at 601 West Fifth Street in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Briggs.
Introduced by Briggs. Further discussion or questions? Okay.
I just want to hear back from the chief in a month from now and let us know how it goes.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
That'd be great.
An ordinance amending a special use permit for a roadside stand at 601 West Fifth Street in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Patke?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Wessels?
Nay.
Bear?
Yes.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Coulter?
Yes.
By your vote, ordinance 5D passes. E, please.
Special use permit, construction of cell tower, 6350 Weg Drive.
Okay, we have a third special use permit. This is a new one for a telecommunications tower for WEG transformers. It is just for their own internal use. It's not external. It's a 100-foot tall mono tower, and it is well within a falling distance, I guess, of Bluff Road. It's 160 feet from Bluff Road, so we've got a lot of room there. And the applicant is here also if you have any more specific questions about the design of the tower.
Any
I'm
questions?
good with it as long as we don't turn it into a toilet brush. We're good.
It's not disguised.
I didn't hear what you said.
I said, as long as you don't turn it into a toilet brush, I'm good with it.
No, sir, it will not. My name's Larry Primsey, a.k.a. Cowboy, I think that I've been here enough now. If I get one more punch on my frequent flyer card, I think Darren has to buy me a free donut.
Right? No, you keep asking for stuff, you're gonna have to keep coming up here.
All right. I want to make clear, it is not a cell tower. This tower is a radio tower for WEG. They have 3 buildings there. I was talking to Sarah a minute ago when she sent out the notices of the corresponding neighbors. I think 3 of them were WEG because they own the other buildings around there. So what this tower does, it allows them to communicate with the other plants and their radio systems. It's not for commercial use. Nothing else will be on it. It's a fairly short tower. It's only 100 foot tall. The one I just built within 1,000 feet of there for Ameren is a 210 foot tower, which you can see from right there. So this is in a heavily commercial area. Everybody knows that. It's all commercial around there. And it is for strictly their own use. And of course, they're one of the largest employers in the city of Washington, and they need this to facilitate their business services. It has no commercial purpose whatsoever, and no other carriers or anybody will be located on, just for their own personal use. And another thing, when we talked about this, because you guys only have really zoning regulations that have to do with cell towers, which this is really not. One of the things that's also different is at the base of cell towers, there's a lot of gear, transmission, they call them BTS, base transmission systems, and all this gear. None of that exists there. There's just a tower, an antenna on the top, one wire comes down, and it goes into the building on the 2nd floor, and all of the radio gear that makes it work will be interior to the building, it won't be outside. There'll be nothing there but one tower.
Questions?
Make motion, set it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Larry. Motion
Public
by
hearing,
Holt.
it's a public hearing.
It is. Folks, this is, again, a public hearing, so if anyone else would like to comment about the radio tower, cell tower, it says cell tower. That's confusing me. Sorry, Larry. Telecommunications tower, yes.
There you go.
Okay. So motion by Holtmeyer,
Second.
second by Coulter. He had his hand up first. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. F, please, Sherry.
An ordinance granting a special use permit to construct a 100-foot monopole wireless telecommunication tower at 6350 WEG Drive in the city of Washington,
She's
Franklin
got
County,
other
Missouri.
utilities on there, that's all it is, yeah.
Rig.
Introduced by Patke.
Looking at that, Jesus.
Yeah,
Any other discussion or questions?
just got the
Okay.
water line.
Go ahead, Sherry, second reading, please.
An ordinance granting a special use permit to construct a 100-foot monopole wireless telecommunication tower at 6350 WEG Drive in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Patke,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Wessels,
Aye.
Bear,
Yes.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Coulter.
Yes.
By your vote, 3 passes. G, please.
Can I say one thing just as clarification? It is not a monopole, it's a lattice tower, and it is not a telecommunication tower, it's a radio communication tower,
Radio.
no
Okay.
telephone. I don't know if that matters to your ordinance, but it's not a monopole and it's not telecommunication.
I'm glad you clarified that, Cal.
You don't get a punch for that one.
No.
Yeah,
For what?
just change the monopole to a lattice tower.
Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Annexation Stonebridge Phase 3.
All right, we have annexation of a 3rd phase for the Stonebridge development. As you can see, they want to come in at R1D as they have been the first 2 phases. This is sandwiched between Stonebridge development and Stonecrest development, which is R1A, so they're compatible. We did discuss a little bit staff-wise, we're a little concerned in not knowing what's going on north of that development, but we trust that Vic's going to come through and not leave a gap there. Like you can see with our, we have a little parcel up there that's not been annexed into the city, and so we tend not to like that kind of thing, but I'm sure in due time he will come in and finish with that annexation. We also have a tract of land that is being negotiated with the city to continue the East-West Parkway. So that is on the southern end of that annexation parcel. It's 2.79 acres.
And that's 7B on your ordinance for later, that, the area that's outlined in
Yeah.
purple.
Come up
But we wanted to make sure that you understood how that was brought in or how that is with this annexation request as well.
Questions, discussion?
How close will that be to South Point Road with this,
You want to go back to the other previous?
with the, with the outdoor extension?
You would have, wait for her to pull that up.
This is the back of Stonecrest. This would be the back of Stonecrest.
Okay, so here's the parcel that we're looking at. And then we have our South Point Road right here.
Just go, yeah. Are you on the point where you can go ahead and get a measurement on there?
Oh, distance?
Yeah.
About 1,000 feet,
That's what I'm gonna guess.
about 1,000.
So that's about a third of a mile from that point.
Go down where it would intersect with North Goods Mill, if you don't mind, Sarah. Right there. There you go.
0.32, 1,720 feet.
There you go.
All right, thank you.
Any discussion, guys? All right, I'll take a motion to accept it. Oh,
wanna-
public
some
hearing.
comments, yeah.
Yes. This is a public hearing, so if anyone would like to comment on this proposal, please step forward. Okay.
Make a motion to accept in the minutes.
Second.
Motion by Patke, second by Briggs to accept. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. H, please.
An ordinance annexing 18.36 acres off Beaker Road into the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Patke.
Introduced by Patke. Further discussion? Second reading, Sherry, please.
An ordinance annexing 18.36 acres off Beaker Road into the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Patke,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Wessels,
Aye.
Bear,
Yes.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Coulter.
By your vote, 3H passes. So,
Citizens' comments, Brown Energy Solutions.
okay. Dean and friends, would you guys like to come up and present your proposal, please?
Whoever.
First of all, thank you. We're looking at,
Hey, Dean, can you introduce yourself and say where you live, please? And speak into the mic.
Tiger, I'm a resident of Washington. I grew up south of New Haven on a farm. Obviously very, very tied with that. Is one reason I invited a dear friend, Rich Packey, tonight, or Rich Deppie, sorry. And the Packeys I've known all my life. Mr. Ray Brown, he's the president of Brown Energy, and Mr. Michael Lewis. They are exceptional people. How would you describe it? The fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree. Ray's father was a nuclear physicist. Michael's father was a brilliant businessman and entrepreneur. What we were talking about tonight is, I talked to the group, there's 6 of us, excuse me, about using Washington as a stepping stone for some outstanding, or a breakthrough technology, using plants, using ethanol that's made from plants, which supports farming, obviously, to create energy and electricity. We have recently reached an agreement with Palo Alto, California, And if you know where that is, that's Stanford University. They recognized us. The reason for choosing Washington, I think, is fairly obvious. Not only my love for the area, but the respect of the people of Washington and the farmers that I knew and grew up with in this region. And why not Washington? Why not over Vandalia, Illinois? Why not over Hannibal, Illinois, or Missouri? Why not over, say, Chicago or Kansas City or St. Louis? We chose Washington to name it Lewis and Clark Expansion. And that name is obvious, but the work that we are doing is extremely impactful because it's renewable energy. It's as clean. When they talk about green, one of the things that we'll be doing is probably taking the green, put a slash through it, and put clean because it's as clean as it can be. What comes out of when you look at the new cars and trucks that are using ethanol, what comes out of them is water vapor. You know, think about it. Think about what Rudolph Diesel did with the diesel engine, which was phenomenal. And it's powered our country, it's powered our military, but now we're looking at something cleaner, stronger than that, plus it's renewable year after year after year. It supports the agricultural community, large and small. For instance, there's offshoots of the technology that will support many different areas and create many jobs. That's the exciting part of it, and that's why we were approached by Stanford University. You know, it's impressive to be recognized by someone like that, and we're hoping, what we're asking is to partner with Washington, put a spot on the map. People from all over the world will know where Washington, Missouri is, because this is where it's going to start, with your permission. The investment is totally ours. We're looking at about $140 million. We're self-funded. So when we look at the total investment, as far as the units to create the energy, and that will drive eventually the car and the truck market. People like J.B. Hunt, for instance, is heavily involved in Europe, and it will be coming to the United States. It already is. Mr. Lewison will expand on that on the ports, because in California, on the West Coast and soon on the East Coast, they will demand that the internal combustion engines not be used. Well, what comes out of our exhaust is water vapor, and we have the same power. The trucks perform extremely well. There's less moving parts versus an electric truck, lighter weight because we generate the power. Now we do have batteries, obviously, but it would require maybe 25% of what an electric truck would be eventually. So we're excited about that as far as weight. I am going to turn it over to Mr. Brown, president of our company. His last name happens to be Brown. I will expand on why we chose the name Brown Energy. We wanted to separate ourselves from green energy. We support all energy. We have had great communication. We had a wonderful, with Ameren. And we are very fortunate in our region to have Ameren because they do an excellent job of servicing. We are looking more to supplement. Many of the companies we're talking about would be like a backup generator initially. We are not talking about disconnecting not only from Ameren, but any power service that they have. We recommend that they stay with it from a comfort level. But when you want to go and use totally renewable energy, we supply it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And we've been doing it continuously. We've been doing it continuously now for 6 years, and we project, what is it, Michael? How long? 25? So, and the reason is because it's a chemical reaction. Keep in mind, Dr. Singh, the gentleman who licensed it and controls it, also created the fuel used in the aircraft industry. And he sold it to Dutch Shell. For quite a few crooked numbers before the million part, you know, and he could rest on his laurels, but this is extremely important with him. That's why he chose Ray Brown to work with and have the really close relationship, I would say, and because he trusts him as well as I do, based on history. And the same thing with Michael Lewison. With this, I'll turn it over to Mr. Brown.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ray Brown, and we are here tonight to introduce ourselves and say, yes, there are opportunities that we see in Washington, Missouri, and Missouri in general. We're doing projects on the East Coast and on the West Coast, and we needed some place in the middle that made sense to us. And it was Dean who recommended, Washington, and we said, Dean, just because you live there doesn't mean it has to be there. But then we started looking at it. We said, no, this actually is a perfect location. You have a lot of businesses that are surrounded here that have all made commitments to be cleaner, to reduce their carbon footprint. We can help with that. And we're introducing ourselves to them to say, this is the direction, and we can take you there today, not 5 years from now. We look at equally the opportunities for Washington, Missouri to take advantage of it, because as we develop, our first customers are probably going to be large industrial manufacturing facilities or just facilities in general that would use our products, our hydrogen, in there for their own machinery, for example. As a result, we're going to have a lot of electricity production that will exceed what that customer might be using, which gives us the opportunity to help municipal buildings within Washington to see a significant savings. And as that partnership grows, we hope that we can continue to work together. That's all I really have to say. I don't know, do you want to?
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, we'll let Michael answer questions if you have.
Not yet. Go ahead, please.
I think we've covered everything. I was just available to answer any questions.
Questions now. Okay, guys.
I always have questions. Yeah, I was, when the mayor sent the information out to us, I kind of scrambled through that as best I could. And then I dug out 50-year-old chemistry books and physics books, which didn't help much, but that's I didn't do well back then either, so it doesn't matter. A couple things popped to mind. I can remember about, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, this was the big talk for automobiles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were going to be H2 as opposed to the EVs that we know today, or the hybrids and so forth. But that seemed to die out.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it was kind of a flash, and then it was gone or something, or maybe I just haven't stuck with it. What happened there with the whole H2 issue with those?
So in automotive, and full disclosure, my family's in the retail automotive business, so we've been very close to this. Within automotive, Toyota's been spending the last 25 years on programs to try to bring hydrogen fuel vehicles to the market. They do currently have one model in the United States that they have available. What you're referring to is that General Motors made a very large, substantial bet on this technology. And where they ran afoul, quite frankly, was they made a commitment to storing the hydrogen in a solid state. I'm really digging back into your chemistry now. They wanted to store the hydrogen on board the vehicle in something called metal hydride. It's actually a technology that we use, but we don't move it. It's very heavy. It doesn't really work real well if you're going to move it around and bump it around. It just doesn't hold the hydrogen as well. It actually is the safest way to hold hydrogen because other than in a material like ethanol or wax or something like that where it's completely stable, metal hydride is a very safe way to hold hydrogen because it's essentially at ambient pressure and ambient conditions. So it's just like the hydrogen that's dancing around us right now. But that's where GM ran afoul. And then, of course, with a couple of economic swings in the meantime and a couple of leadership changes in the corporation, the old person's bet was kind of called off by the new person, and that's really what happened. That's what you're referring to, I think.
Yeah, the reason I say that is, as we're looking at it, you know, and so forth, I guess the fear is something similar going to occur with this form of
question.
H2, you know?
Great question. Yeah, I think Raymond referred to several corporations that have made distinctive challenges within their own midst and commitments to reducing their carbon footprint. Those are our targets, and without making a corporate statement here, just personal observation and personal opinion, I think the consumer automotive fleet is not something that's going to change over to hydrogen technology in the short term. In fact, by the end of this year, you'll see more fuel cell stacks that were made or designed for that Toyota Mirai, which is their consumer vehicle in the United States. You'll see more of them in fleet Class 8 trucks and other similar and floor use and things like that. They actually design that fuel cell so that they could prove it in a smaller platform, but their corporate goal is to roll it out in bigger platforms. And when we look at the larger platforms, all the challenges that you're going to see in those consumer vehicles kind of go away in the larger vehicles. You obviously have more skill in a Class 8 driver and a Class 8 and the people surrounding it. Obviously in a floor system, you have technical people around it. It's not just any one of us driving around in our car. And basically, as we look towards a greener footprint, as we look towards reducing carbon emissions and those statements are made, there's really not a lot of choices for heavy freight transport. You do have battery electric. That is a potential choice. But in the terms of your ability to refuel, or in that case, recharge, the amount of energy you need to do that, the amount of time you need to do it, and then how far the vehicle will move once it's been fully fueled, it just can't compete. And we have a situation in California. We have a route that's used by tens of thousands of Class 8 vehicles, and what it is we have two of the largest ports, certainly on the West Coast, but in the country. That's Port of Los Angeles and Port of Long Beach. And basically, here, anything that comes here for Walmart or Target that comes from Asia is coming through those ports. And then half of it will come by rail on the southern corridor, and the other half will go north by truck and then start crossing rail in the north. And to make that route to the north by truck, they have to travel on the I-5, which is similar to the interstates around here. But it goes up in elevation to about 5,000 feet from pretty close to, well, essentially zero. And the battery trucks can't make it. Nobody has gotten them close. And they talk, well, we'll put huge charging stations up there, and they'll charge for 12 hours while they're waiting to go over this hill. And whereas the hydrogen trucks can just make it. They perform essentially like diesel vehicles. So that's really the focus of our core mission. And we think those are the early adopters, those are the long-range adopters, and I think we'll see some other things happen in consumer vehicles. That's just my opinion.
And you have approached some of the industrial concerns here in Washington?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And to add to the point, we do have projects that are building up on the West Coast, and we do have ones we're working on the East Coast. Our goal is to start linking regions together with different nodes of our hub and spoke system. So that's where we came to the middle, and Raymond told you the story of how Dean identified this community, and it really did tick all the boxes for us. The question didn't come up, but let's hit some safety concerns. People tend to worry about hydrogen. I will be very frank with all of you. When I first came to this as somebody from the retail automotive industry looking for alternative power sources, not for vehicles, but actually to charge vehicles, because we're short of power in California, and somebody said, well, you should look at hydrogen. And I said, well, I'm originally from New Jersey. I know about the Hindenburg. That's not good. So did a lot of research, followed up with a lot of people, And it turns out that in that particular disaster, if you go back to your chemistry books and your physics books, as soon as there was a breach in the shell, the hydrogen escaped in a mere couple of nanoseconds. It happens to be the lightest, most abundant atom in the universe, and it just escapes immediately and shot up beyond any contact with the vessel. What you saw burning and exploding was the metallic aluminum paint on the skin, and that's pretty well documented anywhere you look. But when it comes to safety, one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons that we focus on moving hydrogen in the form of ethanol is it's abundantly safe. Do I use the line? There are a lot of ways you can move hydrogen. Ethanol actually moves more hydrogen than even hydrogen, and what I mean by that is if we were to move liquid hydrogen from a distance into this community, we would, and that's the most dense form you can transfer actual hydrogen in, we'd move about 4,000 kilograms per truckload. We're moving closer to 8,000 kilograms, and that's just because of the molecular structure. If we moved ammonia, we'd only be moving about 5,000 kilograms, so we're still even greater than ammonia. And of course, from a safety standpoint, I probably don't need to talk a lot about how unsafe ammonia can be. I will tell you none of the ports want to touch it because they know about what happened in Lebanon. And we like to say if you have a slight accident with a truckload of ethanol, everybody runs to the grocery store, grabs some limes, grabs some orange juice, and we have a block party. But it is really the safest way to move hydrogen. We don't really store a lot of hydrogen, and in the form, as I discussed before, in metal hydride, in the form that we store it in, it's completely safe as it is in this room right now.
So I hear what you're saying there, and I go back to, we turn plants into ethanol. So this is corn into ethanol like we see in the gasoline market, obviously. That's out there, and those ethanol plants are out there. I know they're in Cahokia, Illinois, and Center, Illinois. They're not even using it right now. That's just amazing, but whatever. This is another chemical step that turns it into hydrogen. Is that right?
Yes, yes. So
but you just said you transport it as ethanol.
Yes, sir.
If you want to think about it, the hydrogen is in the ethanol.
Okay.
So rather than move the hydrogen, just move the ethanol. We're on location and on demand. Our unit is about the size of a shipping container, and that'll produce 1,250 kilograms of hydrogen in a day. We have water as an input at the beginning, but after that we're recycling our own water. So why bother shipping hydrogen? It's complicated when ethanol's everywhere.
Well,
so we just ship that.
We have an existing infrastructure.
To that point, I mean, every gas terminal in St. Louis gets ethanol brought into the gas terminal. They don't, there's no pipeline to do that.
Yes.
So at what point what else do you need besides those truckloads of ethanol to come to you to make this? Is that
We have some
simple question?
We have some equipment. The amount of water that we use is insignificant. And from an industrial, I mean, we use gross 500 gallons of water a day. We actually produce more than that once we get going. So
you're not planning on building an ethanol plant?
No, sir.
Okay, it's bringing ethanol here.
The infrastructure exists, as you well.
Because those are massive plants. You know, you just see it on East St. Louis has got 2 of them that are going on right now. The amount of, the trucks that go in, great for farmers. Another option to bring your corn and harvest, no doubt.
The only reason why we're not going to the gas stations yet is it's a little soon. What we can start with is your industrial facilities around here that do use hydrogen, and we can start working in that market. As the adoption of hydrogen fuel cell trucks, which is coming, then we can start talking about the fueling stations. And yeah, all we got to do is put a unit on location. Like I said, it's about the size of a shipping container, and we produce the hydrogen right there. So when you talk about safety, we're also not hydrogen for very long. We're ethanol into hydrogen into that fuel cell, and that's it.
So I guess the other part of my question is that if the gasoline industry, which is so huge in the United States, if ethanol is government mandated to put 10% ethanol in all your gasoline, why aren't they mandating hydrogen to put in if this is better than that? Or is there a possibility to mix with gasoline, or that's not even an option? This is separate.
There's not a real solution to combine gasoline and hydrogen, but there is a lot of work. And actually, Dean has done a lot of work and run some co-injection in some diesel Class 8 vehicles and gotten north of 10 miles per gallon. And anybody who knows those,
We did that 20 years ago.
anybody who knows that space knows that's actually pretty impressive. But
We're aware of the yellow truck that's tried that, right?
yeah, not even that one, but
That one made it up the hill that he talked about at 10 miles an hour with increased horsepower and torque, based on our system.
But the balancing question you bring up is a good one, because also to point out, you mentioned the existing infrastructure and that the ethanol is moving all over the place. Well, one thing that we know is that in this country, and there's an argument over whether the curve is accelerating or flattening out somewhat, but the adoption of battery electric vehicles around the country. Every time somebody goes into a store and buys a battery electric vehicle or even a hybrid, as a battery electric buyer, they're giving up about 75 gallons of ethanol that were previously produced to them in the year prior when they were driving an ICE engine. So not only is the availability there, not only is the infrastructure there, but there's actually more availability, because as the fleet transforms over, the use of that ethanol is going unwanted. So we're repurposing it for a better purpose. Councilmember Wessels, you talked about your chemistry books. We've talked a lot about ethanol, but we're talking about CH2, CH3OH. So that's where all the hydrogen comes from. And then we combine it with H2O, water, and from that we produce hydrogen molecules. We capture the carbon in the form of biogenic CO2, which is used in everything from beverage industry to food service to medical systems to actually the carbon fiber industry is a growing user of it. And actually we're bringing in that material from a clean process rather than how it's typically made in a cracking from natural gas in a much dirtier process.
Were you thinking about putting the first one of these if you would do that?
Where? Yeah.
I mean, where here?
Yeah, go ahead.
We have a team of engineers, and what we would do is work with your engineers, what would be the best fit. One thing that we would look at is the offshoot. One location we're looking at where they're building a brand new hospital. The reason it's going to be easy because they have the space. Because one of the offshoots is the heat. And anyone who understands air conditioning and heating, you can use that with the heat exchanger, create air conditioning for the hospital, and in the winter do the heating, substantially reducing their cost. We would love to do that here, but I don't know if it's practical because of space. We take up a very small footprint to produce a lot of energy. And initially we were looking at the waste treatment because that's probably one of the biggest expenses as far as electricity. I expressed to Mayor Hagedorn I would love to do all the schools in Washington, including not only the public but the private schools as well, such as Lady of the Lourdes, St. Francis Borgia, and Emmanuel Lutheran. And once we get to that point, it would be a fantastic educational tool, and the fact that it would bring things around to agriculture where it all starts, where it all grows. It opens up all kinds of doors as far as what kind of plants to use. We know about switchgrass and sugarcane, but you can go to islands in the world where they grow specific varieties of grass and where they have no oil. We could establish greenhouses and power those places renewably with that type of farming. So the farming side is what, because of my roots, what really excites me in the food production, which would be non-GMO, organic, and expand on that. But that's down the road. Initially, we're looking at energy and bringing Limelight to Washington, and using it as an example because we have so many. One thing that I was made aware of, what was it, Mayor Hagedorn? 353 or something?
Redevelopment Corporation?
Yes. Can you expand on that for a second?
I'm sure you guys know, but for the audience, back when the shoe factories closed, our town was severely impacted. Lots of folks lost their jobs, and so City Fathers pivoted. They took a new program from the state of Missouri that allowed us to buy land, correct me if I'm wrong, Darren, please, outside of town, or just outside of town for our new businesses to come in. And that's grown now to where we have a very, very diverse business community, and so why not one more?
We are basically looking to expand on that legacy that we have in our community and support not only jobs, but very good jobs. And we are going to be meeting with a college as far as training, because we're going to need that, and those people will be compensated very well too. So we're excited. The other thing that excites me is the response we had from Ameren. We are very fortunate in our region that our cost of electricity and the service we get from Ameren. And our goal is simply to expand on that and in any way possible work with them. We're not carbon zero, we're carbon negative. That's why Stanford came to us. And we hope to use that ability to improve and work with Ameren and other energy sources, but in the same way also support farming and farmers large and small. You know, you heard of Farm Aid, all these kind of different programs. A lot of times they only reach a certain amount. This would reach all farmers. This would benefit all farmers, and large and small. Any questions?
Other questions, guys?
For Michael or Ray, we've been at it for quite a while, but the thing that we look at is the safety of it. It's one of the safest mediums out there to be used, much safer obviously than gasoline and any other petroleum product. And if there is a hole, it has an atomic number of 1, which is the number of electrons to an atom, and 1 being the lightest. And what it does is just go straight up in the air into water vapor.
Would you have to have one of these at every site, like the school sites?
Okay.
If we're going to be supplying electricity, it makes the most sense to have it localized. We prefer not to move the hydrogen very far. We have a company goal of sub 5 miles and ultimately even sub 1 mile. So, but we can roll out systems as the demand is needed. So, I think in conclusion, coming from an area where this is happening and it's happening at light speed, you know, a couple of things that will affect, for better or for worse, and I say that with all candor, California will lead the nation in this direction. There's a lot of pressure, and I think that, quite frankly, this is the best technology there and anywhere else to make sure that we have an abundant amount of energy that we're going to need. The demands on energy are not slowing, they're increasing. The demands on electricity are increasing. The numbers that we're seeing coming out of data center construction to accommodate AI is just really crazy. I mean, they're big numbers. We're talking about current demand being increased by over 25% just to fulfill AI by the end of this decade. And I don't know anywhere else where power's coming online anywhere near that quickly. So this is why we've identified this technology. This is why we're rolling it out in other places in the country. We think it would be a very big benefit to this community. Certainly the hydrogen to those companies, several of them in this community who have made very public mission statements about reducing carbon footprint. Some in the case of 50%, and a couple of them in the case of 100%. This is really the only strategy that's going to work for them. It's the only way to get their goods and services continuing to move to market. there just really aren't other solutions, and we think in the hydrogen space, we can bring that fuel to those corporations.
If you were to build this for the hospital here in town, how much room would they need and what would it cost? About.
So the room is a question I'd have to answer after knowing how much power consumption an operation like that had. We're able to produce about not quite a megawatt on a footprint of 2 TEU, a single shipboard container, 40 feet. That'll power roughly, depending on in this part of the country, probably about 1,000 homes. We also add to that mix a byproduct of process heat that can be used in a facility like a hospital for both heating and cooling. So that kind of gives you, there are probably more use than that, but I wouldn't think it's a whole lot more use than that.
I mean, to convert it over and make it work, I mean, do you have construction cost on what something like that would cost to
Yeah,
power a building like that?
Like anything else, as we go larger, our cost efficiencies increase and multiply. Our cost for a single system with both capacities for electrical production and fuel production has an internal budget number of about $14.5 million. So as far as what it would cost the hospital, in these cases, what we're saying is we know that there will be hydrogen demand for fuel coming out of this community based on the corporate statements that I keep mentioning. There's a lot of logistic requirement that will be answered by this fuel source. As we build the opportunity to supply that fuel source, we will have excess electricity. So as far as what it's going to cost, we'll put significant savings into the community purchaser, whether that be the hospital, a school, the city itself. We'll put a significant savings number together for that excess capacity that we have to put in order to have the future fuel providing provisions for these customers.
Would a place that,
Yeah.
We're not asking the hospital to pay for our unit.
I'm sorry?
We're not asking the hospital to pay for
Right.
our installation. The cost of the hospital is zero. We're saying, just keep buying electricity from us at a discounted rate because we know we're going to be producing fuel in the future. That's our investment that we were talking about. He mentioned the number 140 million. That's what we suspect will be our opening salvo for a city of this size.
suppose the hospital or city hall gets hooked up with one of these units, what about staff to maintain, to take care of, to operate that?
That would be 100% incumbent on us, and it's a very, very low maintenance operation. The current units that we're running basically are running in a facility where people are walking by them. We have computers that monitor the systems. The output is taken away. About the only person who ever touches it is somebody who's hooking up to remove the hydrogen and take it for use. And that's it.
Could you build one of these things big enough that would?
Yes.
That to replace the Labadie plant,
To replace?
the Labadie coal plant.
Yes. Not saying it's the most prudent solution for demand like that. Currently, we're in discussions of projects up to the size of 15 megawatts. That's not a coal plant by any stretch of the imagination, but it's more than a hospital by a bunch.
You understand, I'm sure, our questions, hesitation. If somebody comes and offers you, says,
Skepticism.
yeah, it's not going to cost you a cent, and we're going to apply all your power. I'm going, well, wait a
I heard
second.
that deal before.
We have, as a corporate mission, we want to gain a large market share in hydrogen availability. And the challenge for the hydrogen space, and again, I come from a marketplace where this is going on right now. There are companies that are buying and that are laying out contracts to buy hydrogen fuel cell vehicles for transportation. And there's a mad scramble to try to get them fuel. And I'll be very blunt, most of the fuel that's going to go into those vehicles in the short term is going to be what they call gray hydrogen. Essentially, it's hydrogen coming from natural gas. CH3, you're stripping out the carbon, let it go in the air, and there you go. You got three hydrogen atoms. You got crack it around with some other energy, steam reforming, which requires other fossil fuels. And basically through this process, and we'll go back to your chemistry, you're getting 3 plus another 3 and a whole bunch of other 3s to convert into a bunch of H2s. And that's how they're doing it. And it's a very dirty process. It's not a green process. The companies are going to suffer through it because they know that they have to, in the port areas, what we call the drayage areas in California, there is no more permission to buy any diesel fueled vehicles. So the last diesel fueled vehicle that operates in the port drayage zones in Oakland, Alameda, Long Beach, Los Angeles, San Diego, there are a couple other small ones. The last diesel fueled vehicle that will operate in those facilities was bought on December 31st of last year. There are no more. And any new vehicle you're going to buy is either going to be battery powered or hydrogen powered. So those are the marketplaces we're watching. We're watching how they develop, how short the fuel is, and we recognize we have to put the fuel there in order for these marketplaces to grow. The only way we can do that is by saying, you know, when we produce hydrogen, and we will produce it, if we turn that immediately into electricity, there are plenty of people who could use a few extra kilowatts, especially at a discounted rate. And that's really what we're talking about. That's our way of being able to put in the infrastructure that we need for the future.
Which is why we're not selling the units to anyone. It's our endeavor to put these all over the map, but we're going to own them and operate them. Any others? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
This is a lot to digest. Thanks for coming. That's, I don't know, be thinking about where we want to go from here, guys, for the discussion. Let's do some homework. I certainly need to do more, too. So, but thank you, guys. Nice job. Okay. Are there any other citizens' comments? Okay. Go ahead, Sherry.
Report of department heads, Waste Connections update.
Sorry, before we do we have some community-specific brochures.
Pass them out.
We can pass them.
We don't have enough for everybody. I didn't realize I couldn't panel.
That's all right.
This will be available online as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Nice job.
Good evening. I'm Keith Osmar with Waste Connections, and was asked to just spend some time, stop by this evening, and give you an update on kind of where things are at. I know probably just in a short time, a few months ago, things weren't so pretty on how we were taking care of things in the city here, and our company decided to make a couple of tough decisions and decided to dismiss the site manager that was at that site and the maintenance manager that was at that site. So we've got a new person over our maintenance department, and I am the new site manager on site there. So we've made a lot of changes, spent a lot of money getting some repairs done on our trucks, which has, I think, greatly reduced the issues we had a few short months ago with, you name it, motor oil leaking, transmission leaking, hydraulic fluid leaking. And we had plenty of feedback that things weren't so pretty on a lot of the streets. But I think we've come a long way on that. I know Tony and I are in contact a lot, and he, in fact, spent a little time the last few days, I think, and last week, looking at some of those areas that were greatly affected before, and really almost nothing in sight anymore in some of those streets. So, naturally, some of that where product was put down to absorb that had helped. Probably part of it was a very wet spring, just as far as some of that goes. Once summertime hits, that sun is bright, it's drying up and bleaching out some of those spots and things like that too. So I think we've probably got a little ways to go on some of that. Definitely have some things we can still improve on service-wise and communication with our service. But I think overall things have improved a lot. So I'd welcome to handle any questions you have or comments on what your thoughts are on it.
I didn't catch your name, and the last gentleman offered his phone number for people to contact. Is that you, or is that still a?
That would have been somebody different. Yeah, Ben was the gentleman that used to be the site manager there.
I think but we had somebody since Ben. Rick, thank you.
Right.
lives locally. Was that?
No, you're talking about.
No,
Gateway.
that was Gateway Fiber.
You're talking about
Gateway
Gateway.
Fiber.
Okay, all right.
No problem.
Damn utility.
Yeah.
So your name again?
Keith Osselmeyer, yes.
Osselmeyer.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you guys are trying to remedy the problem. You know,
Sure.
I mean, we hear it, you know, maybe not daily, but a weekly basis of someone saying it's on the streets or, you know, you're staining the streets or whatever, some more than others. I will say I've got a decline in those problems or those phone calls in the last month.
Okay.
I was unaware that you guys were making that big of changes, so hopefully that coincides and it's working out. So
Yeah, I took over the site in mid-March, and at that point, it was ugly. I mean, it really was, and you know, our apologies to how things turned out here, but ever since then, like I said, Tony and I stay in touch quite a lot, but I know things have greatly improved, and I think it's just a matter of attention given to the vehicles that are out here that hadn't been given in the past. So just took a little bit
the
of
thing I've got a question about is that day when you get home at 5 o'clock and the trash isn't picked up, and then you get the email that says, truck broke down, sorry, it'll be tomorrow, and you don't know, on a windy night, now the trash cans have been out there for 2 days, and think, you know, so is that something else that you're trying to eliminate, or that's just happening, a truck breakdown, and you're without any help?
Those types of things can sometimes happen. I think based upon some of the preventive maintenance that's been improved upon, those breakdowns are becoming less and less often that occurs. And so typically we try to communicate as quickly as we can on if there is an issue where something's not going to be picked up. So to your point, it's not sitting out there for a couple of days versus maybe, hey, we've finished, we couldn't get these 3 streets done, we will get those first thing in the morning. So you might have to leave it out overnight.
The problem we got is that we've been spoiled too long doing it ourselves. I think we all agree with that. And when we go to somebody new, yeah, there's problems. There's oil leaks, there's this, there's missed days, so on and so forth. I like to hear that you're trying to do better. The best trash man you got in this town sitting behind you, Tony. You call him and you get results, you know, for whatever reason, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Whether it's a truck broke down or missed an alley or missed this or whatever, you know. He's a good man, and he's taking care of this and doing the best he can. Old people don't like to have their trash cans messed with, and when you see things that don't work out for these people, they complain, and that's the phone calls we get. You know, the recycle man didn't take all the recyclables. Well, if it didn't fit in the bin, it didn't get picked up. It's not going to get picked up if it ain't in the bin. I understand. But you can't make everybody else understand that, you know, and we may have to go to recycling once a week. I don't know what we're going to have to do about that, but as far as the trash, you know, if there's cardboard laying beside it and it didn't go through the recycle bin and the trash man comes along and takes a look at it and he goes, well, that's recyclable. Well, goddamn, you're right there, pick it up, throw it in the trash, you know. The recycle man didn't get it. So I get a lot of that, you know, and I know it's supposed to be in a can, it's supposed to be in a bag. I've had a neighbor that had a trash bag sitting out there and went over and looked at it. They tore the bag open and I seen a little piece of aluminum, siding in it, vinyl siding in it, construction debris. The bag sat. I understand, but throw the shit away. That's why it's sitting there. So that's what I get, and we're still trying to train everybody and get, you know, I understand it's an uphill battle. But I know all you guys have had some of the same things, you know. We've been spoiled. And I'm glad to see you're trying to do better.
Sure, sure. And you're right about that. When you're handling it within the city, and another simple thing just as far as response time goes, it's about an hour from our site to get up here with the truck. So even if it's a situation where they couldn't get to something and they've already broken away and they're on their way back, when it was handled here in town, you might be 5 minutes away. It wasn't a big deal to send a truck back. So it's a challenge we'll have to overcome.
Yeah.
And try to communicate on a little better.
All I got.
Anything else?
Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Keith.
Renewal of city's property casualty insurance and payment authorization.
Good evening. I'm Amy DeBlasi from Daniel and Henry Agency in St. Louis. Thank you for having me this evening. The property and casualty insurance program will renew on June 30th. So we have 13 days left. I think that the renewal this year reflects some good stability with your loss experience as well as your carriers. We are not proposing any changes to the insurance carriers this year. Just to offer a few comments on the certain lines of coverage, our property coverage is with Chubb Insurance again. And our total values insured for the buildings and business personal property are almost up to 105 million. So that's the first time we've exceeded 100 million in values. So that's a big policy. The total premium for the property is up 9.8% from expiring. So there's a couple reasons for that. One is we've added a lot of buildings and other assets throughout the term. For example, airport hangar, we have the new pickleball pavilion at the park, and among others. And the other piece of that is the property insurance market rates that I'm sure you hear about and read about, and how difficult it is to get property insurance that's reasonably priced. And every time we have a hailstorm, problems further along those lines. So speaking of hail, our wind and hail deductible is still outstanding. The deductible is $10,000, which is awesome, with two exceptions. That is the buildings at the airport and the library. So that stayed the same from the expiring plan that we talked about last year. And just for reference, when we were with Travelers was implementing a $250,000 wind hail deductible for all public entities. That might ring a bell, because I probably said it a few times, because we were trying to avoid that. And then that's when we moved the property coverage back to Chubb. 10,000 versus 250,000. Our Chubb program also includes $30 million worth of earthquake coverage. So that's how much earthquake coverage you have. If you ever desire to purchase additional earthquake coverage, we can get quotes on that for you. But I would say most entities don't fully insure to the values for earthquake. It's very expensive. Your earthquake deductible is also outstanding. It's $25,000. Most of the time you see an earthquake deductible that's like a percentage, 10% of your total values. Well, that would be a big number. So 25,000 is better. Moving on to Travelers.
Is that deductible for all property?
Yes, it can be anywhere throughout the city of Washington at any building that's listed on our statement of values, which is this big elaborate spreadsheet by department that lists all the buildings for parks and streets and administration.
So an earthquake could wipe out 10 buildings, and that's our deductible?
$25,000, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, but you've got a maximum of 30 million. So if it does more than $30 million in damage, we have a stop. 30 million is the maximum. Travelers is another carrier that we have. Travelers provides your general liability, law enforcement liability, crime, auto liability, and a $3 million umbrella policy. Travelers has not decreased any rates lately. So you do not see any decreases on those lines of coverage. The cost of insurance is going up for everyone, makes my job fun. The other factor there, though, that we have to keep in mind is your exposures. So obviously, you have more autos, you pay more for auto insurance. During the current term, we've added 16 new units to the schedule. So that's in the current policy term. And last year, we went from 111 to 122. So that means a total of 27 vehicles have been added in the last 2 years. So you can see that that has an impact on your auto premium, even though your loss experience has been very good. So fortunately, there have been no really significant auto liability claims. The number of autos also has a good impact on the cost of the umbrella policy. So you see a small increase just because that premium is smaller, but the increase is smaller on your umbrella policy as well. Missouri Employers Mutual is your work comp carrier, and the total premium increase there is 5%, but your payrolls are up 4.8%. So the premium for work comp is largely based on how much payroll you have. So that's pretty much even. I wanted to mention that the experience modifier that we talk about from time to time has improved for the city. So we're going from 1 is average. Anything below 1 is better than average. Currently, we have 0.98, but we'll be going to 0.85. So that means your work comp experience is 15% better than the average comparable city of the same size. So that's awesome. That always helps your future premiums as well. I think that that improvement can be attributed to safety incentives and reward programs. I think that is a major factor. Safety training classes that are going on and doing those more frequently. And I hear that employees are engaged and appreciate those trainings when provided with them. So it sounds kind of cliche, but you have developed a good safety culture, and that transfers down from the leaders and the managers to the employees, and our people are thinking of like minds and working safely. It's a positive message that is communicated. So you deserve compliments on that. The final lines of coverage to mention are we have, for those of you newer members might be interested to know that we have a $5 million public officials liability policy. And also we have the $5 million employment practices liability policy. Those are through Greenwich, not Travelers. Finally, our cyber liability, which is obviously very important. The city buys a $2 million cyber liability policy. The carrier is a company called CFC. They have been found to be our most competitive for public entities. They do a very good job. Just a couple of other comments that I like to pass along, and I said this last year, but want to repeat again that 2 things I want to compliment the city for doing. One is the documentation of an incident. When we have to report a claim, auto, work comp, whatever it is, really, really important to have good documentation with incident reports, supervisor's report, anything that shows what we would do differently in the future to avoid the claim happening. Pictures, videos, all of that only helps our cause. And the city does an outstanding job. It really has had a long-term effect on your claims. And I know that you know, Sherry, there's been more than one claim, even recently, that was denied. You know, when someone makes an allegation, the city often has enough documentation to prove that maybe that didn't happen that way, and maybe the details aren't accurate. So wanted to mention that again. And the other thing that I think the city does exceptionally well is considered a risk transfer. So when you're working with your vendors, your merchants, your contractors, you're getting a certificate of insurance from those folks, and you're making sure that the city of Washington is named as an additional insured on those people's policy. So that means if they mess up something, their insurance is paying, not yours. And that has also come into play recently in a very important way, because the first thing that Travelers said when the claim occurred is, do you have a certificate of insurance? And are you named additional insured on that certificate of insurance? The answer was yes and yes. Therefore, someone else is responsible for that loss, not us, because it wasn't our fault. So that's my 2 cents, and I just wanted to thank you. If any questions on any lines of coverage or anything like that I can answer for you, I would be happy to.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Amy. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Need a motion to approve that then?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bear, second by Wessels, to approve the renewal of the city's property and casualty insurance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Street closure request, Old Fashioned Ice Cream Social.
Chief, do you want to take this, or who's going to take it?
I think Charles was.
Charles? Okay.
This is a street closure request for Market Street between 3rd and 4th Street for an ice cream social. Was it Saturday? This Saturday?
Sunday.
Sunday. This
Sunday.
And they got all the signatures from the neighbors, and we checked it out in traffic committee and don't have any issues with it. So, just here for your approval.
Is there any reason we can't waive the $100 for this?
I'm just gonna
You
say-
do have, the only reason why we have that on there,
Because
you
of
have staff has to go out there, provide the barricades, et cetera, and it doesn't probably cover the cost of our employees and what they have to do to go ahead and do it, but it's a nominal fee on top of that. I say nominal,
looking at
I
the-
understand your concerns, but that's the reason why the fee is on.
I look at the list at the beginning of this, and, you know, we have music at the market once a month for many times. I don't know if that's built into an agreement somewhere that we're getting that cost back, but it just, Historical Society, I kind of,
I think this was a new one.
it is.
Yeah. That's the reason why it's before you,
It
is
wasn't
because
on
it's
that
not on the
list.
list, right?
Maybe we could get it on that list.
Yeah, I think it's
Kind of
ridiculous to
depends if
charge
it
them $100
becomes
bucks.
recurring, Probably.
Yeah.
Can any of you guys address, do we charge those other ones, even though they're historically, they still pay that fee?
I believe they do.
I think they do.
Yeah.
So downtown
everyone
pays
pays
for
it.
holiday
Yes.
parade of lights?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just, we already have pre-approved it and said you could do it every year.
Yes, they
That's
just
all-
don't,
that's
they
all.
just, the only thing that changes is they don't have to come before you. We recognized that when we did this. We had this several years ago, we had downtown, it seemed to be every other weekend, there was a request to go ahead and shut down a street for some type of festival. It wasn't always downtown Washington, it might be a handful of merchants that wanted to have something. And so it got to the point where the council at that time wanted to go ahead and have some kind of process, and this was the best that we could come up with. We recognized all of these historical ones that you already had in place and just said anybody beyond this has to get your approval, but I believe that fee was put in at that time as well too, but that was for all of them.
And if that's the case, we keep it all the same, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I didn't know if everything else was just yeah, you can go ahead and do it because we know you do it every month.
There was just 2 weeks ago a start-finish line on Front Street in front of the landing. And that's not on this list. We would have to approve it if it's not on this list. Is that right?
That's
They
correct.
Did they have a street closure?
Yeah, if they close the street.
You couldn't get around.
Couldn't drive it.
It may
What
not
was
been
it for?
officially closed, but you couldn't go through there.
It was some kind of a run walk
Like some
thing.
kind of an inflatable deal.
It was an inflatable start-finish.
You couldn't drive past it, let's put it that way.
Right.
I don't know how long it was there, but I had to turn.
I did the same, yeah.
It's something we can take a look at. I mean, we have requests for these races, and we tell them you can't shut down the road. You know, you have to be abiding by all the regular laws. If you're going to do that, if you want to shut down the roads, you can do that, but you have to put in a request for that.
Correct.
Okay.
If we think we need to start a new
If, I
process
would
for
encourage
these-
you, if you have that, call the police department so that they can go down there and say, hey, wait, do we have did we get
Clear the
approval
road.
for this? Yes.
Right.
You can't just shut down the vehicular traffic or whatever to go ahead and have your event.
Other questions? Thanks, Charles.
Yep.
Well,
So I'll make a motion to approve again there.
I was gonna say,
Second.
are we getting ice cream or not?
motion by Bear, second by
Cost you
Briggs.
$100.
Further discussion or comments?
Price of ice cream just went up.
Just went up.
All right, we got a motion on the floor. You guys, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Ordinances and resolutions, an ordinance vacating and discontinuing a portion of an easement.
So this is a 400-foot.
I'm sorry, can someone introduce?
Patke.
Thank you.
Introduced by Patke.
All right, go ahead, Charles.
Sarah's pulling it up. It's a 400-foot corridor we had south of 100, where High Street is now today, to allow for the right-of-way of High Street. At this point, we have gone far enough south as far as that corridor went, which is the south city limits now, where the new Highland Meadows and connection to Sophia is. So we're just asking to vacate the 400-foot corridor now that the right-of-way is there and platted. So, as you can see here.
Explain that again? We're gonna.
So the city secured this easement back in early 2000s so that High Street could continue south. We arranged this with the Jaspers at that time to go ahead. Nobody had any design plans of where that road would be. We just said, we need like an area that we know where this road will be. We need a roaming easement, I think is what it was called. Is that correct, Mark?
All right.
So basically, it was established, and it still exists today on paper, now that we've already put in the right-of-way. We know where the road is, the road's there, et cetera. There's no longer the need to have it anymore, is basically what we're trying
We
to
have a
remove.
determined right-of-way.
We have a determined right-of-way, it's
stays.
designed, we've
Okay.
approved
Giant
it, it's
corridor
done.
easement
Basically,
goes
the
away.
old easement was bigger than what we actually needed.
Absolutely.
Because
Way bigger.
we didn't know where it was gonna be.
Yeah, it was never meant to be that big. It was just, nobody knew exactly where it needed to go. So if it needed to meander a little bit, well, then it could. And if you can look at these exhibits, you can see it meandered a little.
Thank you. I didn't understand how that meant,
Gotcha.
but I got it, yeah. I knew the roaming right-of-way, we had that, but
That's what that's basically what you're releasing.
eliminate that now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Okay, thanks, Charles.
I'll just hang out up here. I got the next couple.
He's got the next one.
Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance vacating and discontinuing a portion of an easement. Patke,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Wessels,
Aye.
Bear,
Yes.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Coulter.
Yep.
Your vote, ordinance 7A passes. B, please.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an agreement to sell and purchase real estate by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Northern Star Homes LLC.
Briggs.
Introduced by Briggs.
So Sarah showed this earlier with the annexation for Stonebridge about the tract of land for the the East-West Parkway. So this is the agreement to purchase that land, which includes the 80-foot right-of-way plus additional land to the north, which allows for future grading of the roadway. So we won't construct this roadway. We don't have that budgeted for next year, but this at least gives us the land to expand the parkway in the future.
So what if the developer wants to build a street off of this section? And we don't have it built yet, is that an issue?
They don't. You'll see
Okay.
that later in the preliminary plat.
Okay,
But
thank
There's a preliminary plat that'll show you how they're gonna go ahead and.
they don't have any plans to connect it in with the grades. They're really steep back there. So.
Okay.
And, real quick, I
Yeah.
can't, what is this costing us?
A little over 100,000. 100.
It's priced at the same price of what you paid before for the right-of-way when we did construct it.
And it's a little over 2 acres?
2.79 acres.
2.7.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions, discussions? Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an agreement to sell and purchase real estate by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Northern Star Homes LLC. Patke?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Coulter?
Yep.
By your vote, ordinance 7B passes. C, please.
An ordinance amending the provisions of Chapter 335, Schedule 2 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri by adding provisions for a stop sign at the locations described below.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Holmeyer.
So we reviewed this in traffic committee. These are essentially stop signs for phase 1 of Stonebridge, and then also Fox Crest, where it runs into North Crest, that stub street that just got put in by Kurt, and then Stonebridge down here. So off the East-West Parkway onto Beaker Road, and then all their extensions and cul-de-sacs, stop signs.
Question? Not pertaining to this, Charles, but the no parking sign in front on Elm and Second Street, we vacated that loading zone.
Yep.
The sign is still there.
Okay.
On the sidewalk.
Okay.
You know, I mean, we did the crosswalk off, but someone just said that the sign is still there, so that's,
Okay.
can't use it for this, but we can take it down.
Okay, yeah, we'll follow up on that.
Anything else? Go ahead, Sherry.
An ordinance amending the provisions of Chapter 335, Schedule 2 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri by adding provisions for a stop sign at the locations described below. Patke?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Coulter?
Yes.
By your vote, 7C passes. D, please.
An ordinance amending Schedule 4, no parking at any time of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Right.
Introduced by Holmeyer.
And this is for no parking along the north side of Stonebridge Court there because it's a 30-foot wide street. By code, they can do that, but they have to have no parking on one side of the street. So that's what that takes care of.
No questions. Okay.
An ordinance amending Schedule 4, no parking at any time of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri. Patke?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Coulter?
Yes.
By your vote, ordinance 7D passes. 8, please.
Commission, committee, and board reports. Preliminary plat approval, Stonebridge, Phase 3.
Okay, welcome back to Stonebridge. So the preliminary plat, as you can see, is the extension off of Lane Spring, well, it was named Lane Spring Court, but it'll be renamed to Lane Spring Road or Lane Spring Drive. We haven't decided that one yet because we don't have a final plat for Phase 2. And then we have a corridor exhibit that came with it to show the future extension from that road to a future road off of Rabbit Trail and Fox Crest. And the reason why we're showing this now is because there is a fire code that stipulates when you have 30 lots or greater, that you need to have 2 access points for fire protection. And if we show an extension and the fire chief approves that, then they can continue with their development without the second access. And we do have Tim's approval with this corridor exhibit.
No questions? Okay. Need a motion to pass the preliminary plat, guys.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Briggs, second by Patke. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mayor's report.
Thanks for the last vote, you guys. I would like to publicly thank Wayne and the Parks Department for their work. And Wayne's not here, shucks. Well, anyway, the American Bloom thing went very, very well this last week. The judges were quite pleased, not that that matters. What matters is we learned a lot from them. And especially interesting to all of us was their recommendations for keeping MS4 going, for lack of a better term. So that was a good thing. That's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
City Administrator's report.
I'd like to formally introduce our new Economic Development Director, Aaron Griesheimer, who's here with us in the crowd tonight. Aaron's first day was today. Let's keep your fingers crossed. He comes back tomorrow.
Long day.
So, but anyway, thank you and welcome, Aaron. We look forward to working with you. That's all I have. I do have an item for you in executive session.
Council comments.
Okay.
City Attorney's report. Public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters pursuant to Section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Patke?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Coulter?
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
4, 4, and 11.
The 11th.
Whoa.
Oh.
Bunt him over, that's all you gotta do, bunt that man over.
I agree.